Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're zeroing in on something so small, so fundamental to our daily lives, that we often forget it carries this catastrophic power.
Our words.
Exactly, our words. We've been looking at a really fascinating reflection called Just Needs a Spark, and it takes the startling position that human language, specifically the tongue, functions exactly like a fire.
And it's an ancient concept, really. You see it in ethics and philosophy for centuries, this idea that something physically small can have just immense destructive output.
Right.
And the text we're analyzing, it doesn't just suggest the tongue can cause disruption. It argues the tongue is a world of chaos.
A world of chaos. That's a strong phrase.
It is. It says it's capable of corrupting a whole community, setting an entire course of life ablaze. So our mission today is really to unpack that duality.
We want to grasp why that single verbal spark can cause so much ruin, but also, conversely, how it can fuel, extraordinary growth.
To do that, yeah.
So we're going to connect the source's vivid anecdotes about physical disasters. We're talking massive historical infernos, directly to the chaos caused by careless or malicious words in your team, your neighborhood, maybe your workplace.
Precisely. And that's the core thesis, isn't it? It's about the disproportionate power held by a tiny element. So before we even get into the psychology of a rumor, we have to establish the sheer scale of the destruction we're talking about.
So we're starting with literal sparks.
We are starting with literal sparks.
Okay, so let's unpack this with a great story from the source material. It takes us straight to London, specifically Charing Cross Road, which, is famous for its incredible network of historic bookshops.
I know the area.
Right, so the author of this reflection describes visiting one of these famous shops, and they noticed the collection wasn't as maybe vast or overwhelming as they had anticipated.
And the explanation they get from the staff member becomes this perfect physical allegory for our whole discussion.
It really does.
They explain that during a single night of World War II, a specific type of bomb incendiary device fell directly on that location.
So not a huge explosion. It was basically a single targeted spark designed to ignite everything around it.
Exactly. Just one small point of ignition.
And the result? The destruction of well over 1 million books. 1 million. I mean, think of the intellectual capital, the irreplaceable history, the knowledge.
Oh, they're gone.
An entire library reduced to ash by one small spark. It's not about the size of the bomb, it's about the heat and, the fuel it encountered.
And the source drives this point home with another powerful natural example. They talk about a friend's trip to this beautiful California forest.
Okay.
But when they arrived, they came across a massive swath of land that was just completely ruined. Ugly, bald, burned out.
And the economic cost must have been staggering.
Oh, huge. Millions of dollars worth of precious timber that were simply gone.
And the cause wasn't some act of God, right? It wasn't a lightning strike or a systemic failure.
No, that's the key. It was human negligence. The friend explained the fire was started by someone littering or just being completely careless with their actions.
So an avoidable human failure.
An avoidable human failure that resulted in this extreme loss of natural resources and, finances.
What's fascinating here is how these early examples show that generational damage, this multi-million-dollar destruction, doesn't need a complex root cause.
Right. It doesn't require a conspiracy. It just needs a tiny, avoidable mistake or a, momentary lapse in judgment.
And when we talk about historical disasters rooted in a single spark, I mean, nothing serves as a better warning than the Great Chicago Fire.
Absolutely. So the date is October 8, 1871. The ignition point was an old structure, an animal barn, the O'Leary's barn.
A barn, of all things.
A barn. And from that one initial contained fire, the blaze just spread uncontrollably. The wind, the city's building materials, it was a perfect storm.
The numbers, even just at a high level, are staggering. You have over 100,000 people instantly made homeless. Something like 17,000 structures were utterly destroyed. And the financial toll, it exceeded $400 million. At the time.
Which is an unbelievable amount of money for 1871.
Right. This wasn't just physical destruction, it was civic chaos. The entire fabric of the city was torn apart by one small initial flame.
So we've established the terrifying potential of a spark. But what's the relevance for us today? The source asks us to do this mental substitution.
What if our words carry the exact same destructive potential as these massive infernos?
Exactly.
I have to admit, I wouldn't have thought to link the start of the Chicago fire with, office gossip, but the source makes a really compelling connection.
Well, if fire is the perfect metaphor for chaos, how do we see this playing out today in our densely connected world?
That's the question.
And the transition the reflection makes here is essential. It shifts us immediately from these historical fires to a modern urban scale of communication chaos.
It references a modern tragedy, right? A devastating urban fire in a city like Hong Kong.
Yes, where multiple high-rise buildings caught fire, leading to a huge number of casualties. It uses that modern scenario to highlight modern risks.
Okay, so what are the modern risks?
Think about the increase in fire risk today, just from the sheer number of electrical connections we use, adapters, extension cords, constant power draw.
Okay, right.
Metaphorically, that's our social networks. We have so many more connections now. Digital feeds, social groups, email chains, they all function like these high-power extension cords.
That's a great image. One careless word, one faulty verbal connection, and it can spread viral destruction through the office floor or online.
Much faster than a fire ever could physically move. It's instantaneous.
And it's global.
And that takes us directly into the organizational application. The reflection is very clear on this.
It is.
It says whether you are running a company, managing a community, or volunteering in a group, destruction is frequently caused by members or coworkers who just cannot control their words. And this is where the analysis gets deep into group dynamics. The source provides this test case that I think many of us will recognize. They observe that when certain individuals, the ones who always seem to be spreading friction or negativity or rumors, when they leave or are replaced, harmony and stability often return to the organization, almost immediately.
Wow. That is a powerful and honestly an uncomfortable analysis. It essentially names these individuals as the primary source of the friction.
The source of the fire.
Right. Yeah. The ones carrying that initial destructive spark, even if they see their own actions as just, harmless chatter or venting.
But they're the initial heat that burns down the culture.
So we need to understand why. Why is that kind of cultural incendiary so effective?
It's because toxic talk rarely presents itself as a raging inferno, does it? It usually arrives as this subtle, corrosive language. The source calls these words destructive or thoughtless.
Thoughtless. So language that hasn't been weighed or considered for its impact?
Exactly. And the reflection suggests this kind of speech functions like a virus or a toxin.
It's not just external then. It often stems from deep internal issues. The source lists the roots of this verbal fire, like a closed-off thinking.
Which is the inability to consider any perspective other than your own.
Right, or excessive pessimism.
Which often manifests as this low-effort form of verbal control, By constantly pointing out how things will fail, the speaker subtly reduces the enthusiasm and the effort of everyone around them. It just drains morale.
And then you see the language that comes from deep-seated emotions. Feelings of hatred, jealousy, or just outward arrogance.
That overbearing self-proclaimed authority or that sense of superiority that says, I know better because I've been here longer.
Yeah, that one's a killer.
And when words come from those places, they instantly generate widespread instability and overall chaos in the group. They poison the well of collaboration.
Think about the effect of a single passive-aggressive comment in a meeting. It doesn't cause a huge fight right then and there, but it erodes trust for weeks. That's the spark. It's not always the big, loud insult that does the damage.
No, it's the persistent, low-level cynicism or the constant undercutting that acts like slow-burning embers.
Which raises an important question that the source has to address. How do you handle that? If you see a colleague acting as a constant source of friction, how does a healthy community respond?
Well, initially, the suggested response is always rooted in care and patience, what they call love and tolerance.
So things like counseling, trying to understand the source of the resentment, and urging the person to stop spreading harmful words and rumors.
That's the ideal response, absolutely. Right. But here's where we might need to challenge the source just a bit. Isn't it perhaps naive to suggest that simply removing the source of friction immediately restores harmony?
That's a good point. Organizational wounds, once they're inflicted, they tend to linger. Right?
They do.
It is, but the source does recognize that complexity. It makes a stark distinction. It says if counseling fails and there is no genuine change of heart, if the person continues to fan the flames, then rules or consequences have to be applied.
The ultimate goal is prevention, then.
Prevention of continued damage, yes. The reflection accepts the difficult truth that sometimes the most responsible action for the health of the whole group is to neutralize the fire source.
Otherwise, the damage just spreads from one individual to the entire community's morale and productivity. It's about containing the blaze before it reaches, the Chicago scale.
This moves us neatly into the really beautiful duality that the reflection provides. The tongue isn't just destructive.
No, just as fire can be used for forging, for heat, for light, the tongue can also ignite a positive fire or spark.
That is the crucial contrast. If toxic talk acts like a virus, then constructive language.
It acts like a positive catalyst. Instead of words that destroy, we have words that build up, that encourage and lead to positive zeal.
That enthusiasm and concerted effort toward a common goal.
Exactly.
So let's take the workplace scenario again. You can immediately spot the difference, can't you? You have the colleague who is always gloomy, lacking vitality, always operating in the gray.
They act as a subtle drag on the team's energy.
They really do. And then you have the person who is full of energy, full of commitment, the one who's always encouraging persistence, celebrating small victories.
Encouraging growth, telling you to keep pushing past the next difficult hurdle.
That person isn't just delivering information, they're acting as a positive spark. They are inspiring dedication, lifting morale, and moving the group toward a higher level of effort.
Their words are the difference between a project dying on the vine and a team achieving its greatest success.
So true. The reflection reminds us that our words are never really neutral. They are a powerful force, this tiny instrument that has the incredible power to either torch a million books or to inspire the creation of a whole new collection.
And the difference between O'Leary's barn and a breakthrough success often comes down entirely to the quality of that initial verbal spark.
So let's synthesize this for you. We started with the sheer, undeniable destructive capacity of physical fire, the million books lost in London, the civic devastation in Chicago.
And we connected that scale directly to the capacity of a small, thoughtless, or malicious word to create chaos, destroy harmony, and breed instability in any organization.
But we end with the understanding that this same tiny instrument, our capacity for speech, can ignite the zeal, the vitality, and the concerted effort that you need for growth and for community building.
The destructive and the constructive power of this fire are both enormous, even though the spark itself is tiny.
And the reflection leaves us with a truly thought-provoking final question. It asks us to see ourselves not just as speakers, but as something proactive.
It asks us to consider, since the tongue is fire, what virtues do you need as a spiritual firefighter? And if we think about that, the role of a firefighter isn't just about extinguishing existing blazes.
No, it's so much about prevention and preparedness.
Exactly.
So then what preventative measures, what virtues like patience or clear-headedness or genuine humility can you adopt today to manage the spark of your own words, ensuring that you are consistently lighting the path and not accidentally burning the foundation?
That's what we leave you to ponder. Thanks for joining the deep dive.